2014 NBA champions San Antonio Spurs, where are they now? The 2013-14 San Antonio Spurs are perhaps the most underrated NBA champion of the past decade. Obviously, they had more firepower than the 2010-11 Dallas Mavericks, but for some reason, we just don't talk enough about them. That Spurs team put an end to the Miami Heat's Big Three. It sent LeBron James back to the Cleveland Cavaliers and changed the course of basketball as we know it. It was also the last time Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and Greg Popovich made it to the NBA Finals. Also, it was a team that overcame losing in 7 games versus the Heat the prior year. They were obsessed with going back to that stage and getting back at the team that beat them. But, what happened with their players? Let's take a look at those 2013-14 NBA champions Spurs and where are they now? Jeff Ayers. Now in Nagoya Diamond Dolphins. Jeff Ayers barely played at all that season. He was their bottom-of-the-bench big man for garbage time or when Tim Duncan or Tiago Splitter got into foul trouble. In fact, he averaged just 2.2 minutes per game during the 2013-14 NBA Finals. Ayers stayed with the Spurs for another season before joining the Los Angeles Clippers until the end of the 2016 season. He then tried his luck overseas in Europe and Asia and is now playing for the Nagoya Diamond Dolphins of the Japanese B-League. Corey Joseph. Now Sacramento Kings. 22-year-old Corey Joseph wasn't much needed during the Spurs' finals run. His game was still raw in both ends of the floor, but the potential was clearly there. However, he was never going to blossom with Tony Parker and Patty Mills on the team. Joseph stood with the Spurs until 2015 and later joined the Toronto Raptors on a multi-year deal. He was traded to the Indiana Pacers in 2017 and finally joined the Sacramento Kings as a free agent in 2019, where he served as De'Aaron Fox's backup. Aaron Baines. Now Phoenix Suns. Aaron Baines was only sent to the court to get physical back in the day. The Spurs got a lot of depth in the front court, but Baines gave them the kind of inside presence they lacked when they played versus bruising Big Mem. Still, he barely saw the floor in the finals. Baines stayed with the Spurs for another season and later joined the Detroit Pistons on a multi-year deal. Once his contract ran out, he signed as a free agent with the Boston Celtics but was later traded to the Phoenix Suns with Ty Jerome for a 2020 first-round pick. Matt Bonner retired. Ever since Matt Bonner made it to the San Antonio Spurs, he became an integral part of the team. He was the ultimate stretch big man, a sharpshooter you could always trust to knock down a big shot from beyond the arc. The Red Mamba. Bonner was a 41% career shooter from beyond the arc. However, he only played 11.3 minutes per game during the regular season and made just 3 appearances in the finals, scoring a grand total of 5 points. He stayed with the Spurs until his retirement in 2016. Marco Bellinelli. Now in Virtus Bologna, in Italy. Marco Bellinelli earned a reputation for being a standout sharpshooter before he joined the San Antonio Spurs for the 2013-14 season. Popovich made the most of his talents during the regular season but barely played him at all when they made it to the finals. Still, he averaged 4.6 points per game on 44% from beyond the arc. Bellinelli's three-point expertise allowed him to sign a multi-year deal with the Sacramento Kings, but he was later traded to the Hornets and Hawks. He was waived by Atlanta and signed a deal with the Sixers until the end of the 2018 season. He later came back home and rejoined the Spurs. Tiago Splitter. Now player development coach for the Brooklyn Nets. Tiago Splitter was a tailor-made big man for Greg Popovich and the Spurs. He didn't flash with athleticism or range, but he could take a beating below the rim, was a solid rebounder on both ends of the glass, and he could create off the low post for his teammates. Splitter wasn't the most gifted big man, but he thrived with the Spurs until 2015. He then played for the Atlanta Hawks and made 8 appearances for the Philadelphia 76ers before retiring. Boris Diaw. now executive of Basketball Club Metropolitans 92 in France. People didn't value Boris Diaw enough. He was far from athletic and worked in slow motion, but he could take the best players in the world with his craftiness and high basketball IQ. He was a vastly underrated player who gave a lot of versatility to the Spurs in the finals with averages of 6.2 points, 8.6 boards, and 5.8 assists per game. Diaw could knock down shots from deep, play in the low post, or create for others. He stood with the Spurs until 2016 before joining the Utah Jazz for the final year of his NBA career. He played 1 year in France and is now the president of Basketball Club Metropolitans 92. Patty Mills. Now in Brooklyn Nets. Patty Mills took a major step forward that season. He doubled his scoring averages from 5.1 points to 10.2 and became an instant offense provider off the bench for the Spurs. His timely shots from beyond the arc helped them make it to the finals. Mills averaged 15.2 minutes per game with 10.2 points on 55% shooting from three-point range versus the Miami Heat and earned the love and respect of Spurs Nation forever. He's still with the team and is one of their most outspoken locker room leaders. And later on traded to Brooklyn Nets. Danny Green. Now in Memphis Grizzlies. Danny Green was fresh off breaking the record for most threes in the finals in 2013 when the Spurs made it back next season. He wasn't as sharp from beyond the arc that year, but he still poured in with 9.2 points on 45% from three-point range. Green's outstanding and versatile defense played a huge part in the Spurs' success in that series. He started all games and played 21.1 minutes a night in the finals. He stayed with San Antonio until he was traded to the Raptors in 2019 and won a championship, then moved to Los Angeles Lakers, then Philadelphia 76ers, and is now playing for the Memphis Grizzlies. Tony Parker. Now team owner of Asvel basketball team in France. Tony Parker is one of the greatest point guards to ever live. His outstanding performances in the playoffs and ability to pull the strings of the offense made him a one-of-a-kind player in the league. His slow pace, crafty moves, and elite footwork were just unique. Parker averaged a team-high 18.0 points per game in the finals versus the Heat on 47/41/75 shooting splits and made a strong case for being finals MVP. He continued his career with San Antonio until the final year of his career when he played for the Charlotte Hornets. He's now the majority owner of Asvel Basket in LNB Pro A. Manu Ginobili. Retired. Manu Ginobili has to be considered the smartest, best overall sixth man in the history of basketball. He was the ultimate floor general, a guy willing to put his body on the line on every single possession. He could run the offense, play off the ball, knock down shots, and play lockdown defense throughout his career. Ginobili is one of the greatest players in Spurs history, and for good reason. He averaged 14.4 points on 50/41/87 shooting in that series and stayed with the team until his retirement in 2018. He's currently enjoying retirement, but the rumor is he'll join Popovich's coaching staff in the future. Manu Ginobili. Retired. Manu Ginobili has to be considered the smartest, best overall sixth man in the history of basketball. He was the ultimate floor general, a guy willing to put his body on the line on every single possession. He could run the offense, play off the ball, knock down shots, and play lockdown defense throughout his career. Ginobili is one of the greatest players in Spurs history, and for good reason. He averaged 14.4 points on 50/41/87 shooting in that series and stayed with the team until his retirement in 2018. He's currently enjoying retirement, but the rumor is he'll join Popovich's coaching staff in the future. Kawhi Leonard. Now in Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi Leonard was a relatively unknown player when the Spurs made it back to the finals in 2014. He first introduced himself to the world by playing outstanding defense on LeBron James in that series and even earned the finals MVP honors. Leonard averaged 17.8 points, 6.4 rebounds, 2.0 assists, and 1.6 steals per game that series. He became the Spurs' go-to guy later on until his trade to the Raptors in 2019. He left the team in pretty bad terms and is now leading the Los Angeles Clippers as the best two-way player on earth. Tim Duncan. Now happily retired from assistant coaching job. Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward to ever set foot on a basketball hardwood. He stood with the San Antonio Spurs for 19 years and turned that franchise into a powerhouse and a standard of excellence, winning all 5 rings in their history. Duncan lived up to the moment during the 2014 NBA Finals, averaging 15.4 points, 10.0 rebounds, and 2.0 assists per game on 56.9% shooting at 37 years old. He retired at the end of the 2015-16 season and is now the next in line behind Greg Popovich, serving as an assistant coach for the Spurs. As of 2022, he is now living his life as retired coach.